Hello, freaks. This is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Now, if you're wondering, why did he just call us freaks? Well, that's what we call ourselves on my channel, the freaks, the crime freaks. Now, recently, I put out an interview with Becky, Patty, and another interview with Lieutenant Jerry Holeman of the Indiana State Police, one of the lead investigators. And I put those videos out, and hardly anybody watched them. I mean, it's almost like the algorithm didn't show people that these videos exist. Very low views, so I figured I put them together in one longer video, and people can sit and watch it if you want. But if you could hit that like button, I would appreciate it, and then share the video with other people. All right, and if you like other videos like that, and then maybe hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. All right. So thank you for watching. Let's get started on those interviews right now. I remember you went to the FBI for some training. Is that when you became a sergeant after that, or were you a sergeant before you went in? I know you're a lieutenant now, but
Yeah, it was after. So our department, you have to be a first sergeant or above to be nominated to go to the FBI National Academy. So it was shortly after I got promoted in July of 2016, I believe. So shortly after that, one of my former bosses nominated me, and I filled out the application. And it's actually a very thorough background investigation they do on you to make sure that you meet their requirements to go out there. But yeah, it was after I got promoted, and before all this happened, before the I was accepted and had a date to go before the Abby Libby murders in 2017.
oh, I see. So what kind of things did they teach you there, just in general?
So it's called the FBI National Academy, and it's a leadership academy put on by the FBI. And there was I think there was 225 other students in my class. I do one class a year. Actually, I'm sorry, they do multiple classes a year now. During COVID, they were breaking that up. But so, yeah, you get to pick your classes. They're all accredited through the University of Virginia. So I took a lot of investigative classes. I took a media relations class. And then most of it's geared around leadership, generational gaps, how to lead older people or younger people, things like that. And it's also fitness. You have a physical fitness test you do, and a lot of how to take care of yourself mentally and physically, a lot of those types of classes. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, did some of that training help in this investigation?
I think so. Absolutely. I think mostly maybe the media relations class
Yeah,
helped helped out a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
The investigative classes, um, not really. I think most of it just reiterated what we already knew and what we were already doing in those investigations. But it was definitely good learning experience.
I think it was February 13th, 2017. Abby and Libby were, unfortunately, they were killed. Um, and then the 14th, their bodies were found around noon. How long after that did you show up at the crime scene?
Yeah, I think it was 12/12 when I was notified. Um, I was at the the fire department, Delphi Fire Department, city building, the old one. So I was there within probably 5 minutes after we were notified.
And then when you went to the crime scene, was it undisturbed at that point? Or, because I could imagine at first people would have wanted to try to resuscitate or something.
No, it was undisturbed. No, I think the first person um, on the search party that saw them knew right away, so they did not get close to them. When I was there, all the search party members are already back coming up the hill, and there was a couple police officers that got there before me with the county and even state police, and they were already starting to put crime scene tape up around the area.
Okay. And then were they ever covered with leaves at all? I mean, people described it. that they were just laying there with the branches, but were there ever leaves at one point on them?
It didn't appear to me that leaves were on them, maybe a few, but not like a large amount of leaves, just sticks and some
Okay.
debris.
Yeah, that must have been pretty shocking going to a crime scene. I mean, you especially since everybody just thought they were missing the night before, and to come upon that. What was that like, just mentally?
Yeah, I think, as I've said before, I become compartmentalized being in the Marine Corps for 8 years and being a state trooper for a long time. So those types of scene don't bother me like they used to, or in
Yeah,
the same manner. It's more of my emotion my emotion was anger. Like, how could somebody treat two teenage girls like this? I was angry that somebody could actually treat human beings like that. Um, so that's kind of the emotion that took control of me.
yeah,
It was just upsetting you, and just can't believe that somebody would treat two humans like animals and basically put them through
right.
that.
Let's see. So Richard Allen said in his confession that he took the girls down the hill. The one where he described what he did, where he was over at his. Well, first of all, when he was when you heard that he was over at his parents' house, he said in Peru. Did that make you kind of go, whoa? Because you knew that Keegan Kline. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there because you knew that Keegan Kline. You guys were investigating that. Did that make you perk up a little bit when you heard that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it
His
definitely
mother's.
caused a thorough investigation to see if there was any connection, and still to this day, there's no connection between them. Um, but yeah, it was definitely something that we looked into very thoroughly.
Okay, and then when he took the girls down the hill, I was going to maybe show on Google Earth the spot, and then maybe we could. I don't know if you ever saw. I made an animation where I move around. Let me move. Let me show you on this screen over here. Hold on a second. Right. I think this one will work. Yeah. Let me just pull this one up. So right here, this is the animation that I made regarding the events. Like, those are the three girls
Hmm.
walking, and then at 126, they're right here at a bench. Then Richard Allen comes in, passes them, and then he keeps walking this way. Then those girls go over State Road 25. There goes Betsy Blair underneath the bridge, then drives by the Hoosier Hardware store, parks, gets out of her car. There's no time for Richard Allen to have got past Betsy Blair. And then Betsy Blair goes to the bridge and then turns around and comes back and passes Abby and Libby, and then they go. I think Richard Allen. What do you get? Do you think Richard Allen went back a little bit into the woods? Like over back this way down the trail to watch to see what they were doing?
Uh, I don't know if I can speculate on that. I think that so far what you said is the evidence that we have is pretty accurate.
Yeah, and then Richard Allen has him go down the hill right here. Now I always thought it was back in this little corner here. You see what I'm saying? Like right by the shallow portion, but it was back in a corner that he was going to assault them, and then the white van drives by. I mean, it's a little bit hard to see on that image. Let me try to zoom in on this one. So right here, he takes him down the hill, and I always thought right back here in this little corner is where he intentionally or originally was going to try to assault them. Does that seem accurate, or do you think
Uh,
it was down here?
what the evidence indicates is probably just right down underneath the trestle.
Just
That's
right here, huh?
Yeah, just down the hill. It goes right down there, and then there's underneath that trestle. He was probably going to attempt to sexual assault him there, and then
Mm-hmm.
when the van went by, he tried to move him.
Yeah. What was that? Was that a parrot? I heard something. That
My
was
CIO's computer notification. Leave it in there.
I was like, whoa, I didn't, that wasn't real. Was that real?
Uh,
Yeah. So
yeah,
right here, so I always look at this big tree right here. I always thought the crime scene was right back there based on where the tape was. Your GPS coordinates that were in one of the documents were over here, but it didn't seem to match. I don't know if you guys didn't want it right on the crime scene, the GPS coordinates. They were right here, but I had it right behind this tree that sort of overhangs, kind of back in here. Is that not right? Or
It's hard for me to tell about on that,
okay, so
but
just looking.
that's the general area.
So how quickly were you able to access Libby's phone, like literally log in and start looking at it?
I think once we preserved the crime scene and collected all the evidence, it was taken to our phone analyst down in Indy. So probably the next day they started on it.
You guys made a decision to put out the image that you retrieved from that video. I mean, that's amazing that you guys, first of all, you found the video that quickly, or were able to get it, especially on an iPhone. And then you put the image out to the public on the 15th, the very next day after their bodies were found. Was there any kind of strategy to that?
No, I think anytime in this investigation where you're looking for the public's help, if you have information that you believe can be helpful, you want to get it out as soon as possible. And that was the best image that we had. That was actually an enhanced photo. The phone, the video, the actual video was upside down and twisted,
Yeah.
so we were able to stabilize it and get that photo and get it out to the public as soon as possible.
Do you know how they were able to stabilize this video?
I don't. I know we have experts that do that, and I know they were able to stabilize it. And
Yeah.
I don't know how.
And you guys were able to get those 2 seconds that you released in 2019. Those are the only really 2 seconds of clearness that you could find, right? Of him walking.
Yes, yes. So in the actual video, he's directly behind Abby on the bridge for a majority of it, and just for those couple seconds, the way the camera angle was or moved, we were able to get that portion of him.
Yeah, and I actually think that when we were, a long time ago, when we were looking into where things were, I think he was actually after, when you put out those 2 seconds, it was after this last platform, right? He was only about 60 feet from the end of the bridge, I think, maybe 57.
It's a fair statement. Yep.
Do you think after that image was put out in the public, that's when Richard Allen went, whoa? Because the very next day after you asked to talk to the person in that image, he came forward. Do you think that's what he did?
That's a fair assessment. I don't know what Richard Allen was thinking, and obviously he's the only one that knows and doesn't want to talk about it. So, but I think that would be a fair assessment.
Yeah, and I think what it shows is how important. I mean, I believe that's what he did, and I think Libby's video is even that much more important because if he hadn't come forward, do you think if he hadn't tipped himself in, this would ever be solved?
Uh, Potentially, I think eventually it would be, but I think that obviously finding that tip helped out greatly.
No, it's amazing. The thing is so Libby, the video that Libby took allowed, had the picture of Bridge Guy that all the witnesses said, oh, yeah, that's the person we saw was Bridge Guy. So that's huge there.
Yes.
But then him coming forward, I think, is because that was put out also. So it's almost like without that video, man, he'd have to have committed another crime and you guys find another bullet that matched.
Right. I would say Liberty is definitely a true hero. Uh, very honorable what she did, and yeah, without that video, um,
Yeah.
I don't think it ever would have been solved.
Why do you think the report written by Dan Doolin never made it in front of the right person
Uh,
early on?
yeah, I think we had a lot of people with great intentions helping. I think, in my opinion, maybe too many people. But how do you tell people you don't want their help trying to find the murder of two young teenage girls?
Right.
I think we were. It was total chaos at first, and when we were able to get it managed and kind of controlled, it got a little bit better, and we got a process. But unfortunately, with things that we couldn't control, it got mislabeled, misfiled, never got to the right person, and until it did. And then once it did, we moved quickly and were able to make an arrest within weeks.
Yeah. So the Kathy Shank, her finding it's amazing. But what's also I think is important sometimes in investigation is like the more information people have, that something can pop into their mind because she knew about the girls seeing somebody, right?
Yeah,
The four girls that
sure.
saw Richard Allen.
Yeah, she pretty much knew what we knew about all the witnesses that we had interviewed. She was filing them and making hard copies, putting them in this computer system. She was you know aware of everything. Um, so yeah, when she did find it, she knew that we hadn't talked to the bridge guy yet, and
Yeah.
that tip basically says, "Hey, I'm bridge guy." So and she would do that a lot. She would do that with many tips. Say, "Hey, I don't know, have you guys followed up on this?" And majority of the time, we were able to look into it and be like, "Yeah, we did." Maybe the report hasn't been written yet. Maybe we have to reach out and give someone a gentle reminder to document the report or whatever. But there's others that we weren't couldn't find documentation, so we go back and document it. But that one, obviously, we knew we hadn't talked to Bridge Guy.
Yeah, and you guys had already determined that the person that the three girls, Rayleigh, Bree, and so forth. There's four, but three witnesses that you used, and then also even Betsy Blair, because they all said that the person they saw was the person in Libby's video, right? So you already knew that if you had that person's name, you likely have Bridge Guy, right?
Yes, and Sarah Carball.
Yeah,
Sarah Carball, Betsy Blair, and the three, like you said, four girls, but one was very young. I can't remember how old she was. One of the sisters, but she was very young, so we didn't interview her. But the other three identified, um, yeah, the person they saw as the video or the picture from the video off of Liberty's phone as the man they saw on the bridge that day.
Yeah, and when so that's the thing about with Kathy Shank. It was years later she knew all these different things, but Dan Doolin wouldn't have been aware that three girls saw Bridge Guy at the time to make like, whoa, this is the same person that those three girls saw, right? He wouldn't have been able to know that.
Probably at that time, no, he might not have. Depending on what briefs he showed up to, we had briefs, daily briefings. Um, but a lot of that was kept close to the Unified Commands vest. We weren't putting out every detail just because we were fear for leaks. And so, yeah, we kept a lot of that close to our vest. And so, yeah, it's high potential that he did not know.
Yeah. So what kind of things have you put into place, like procedures to not have something like that happen again, where a tip of that magnitude, or even any tip really, gets sort of forgotten about,
Sure.
basically?
I think now, we've worked many major investigations since then. We try to keep it centralized and, one agency and only use other agencies if they have resources that we don't. If we're going to assist, then we try to manage it, the tips and leads better. But no investigation that we've worked before or after this do we get even a tenth of the amount of tips that we got on this case. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's the big thing.
everybody wants. Go ahead. Sorry.
We do have a tips and lead sheet that we come up with through the state police that we can organize that. But I think the most important thing is to keep a tight group. One person knows everything and kind of manages that through. And that's what we try to do. But when you get a lot of different departments, a lot of different agencies, it gets a little bit difficult to do. So
That actually makes a lot of sense because you want somebody that's sort of running the ship that knows the whole story, everything's coming in. And you got to make, I mean, obviously, you have to make sure that they see almost every tip, at least a small summary of it, right? Because Dan Doolin's tip, how did somebody know that that, I mean, when Richard Allen came forward, that was important for some high level person to see, you
Right.
know. So that's kind of a hard way, it's hard to figure out how to actually, I guess, when you're at the highest level, do you really want to hear every single tip that comes in? So you have to have people that are smart enough below to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the state police, we promote people, sergeants and first sergeants to control those investigations. And I was a DIC at the time, and I was controlling the state police's involvement, um, and assisted with the ISL, Steve Buckley at the time. And he's since taken my spot. But yeah, so we have people in place now that we trust those guys. Those are the ones that need to know everything. Above, we just need to know what you need, what resources, money, travel arrangements,
Right.
training that might help you accomplish your goals, and that's what and that's kind of what happened in this case. We were supported by our agency very very well.
So you remember the three girls? They said that it looked like Bridge Guy, aka Richard Allen, was had his head down. And he was looked like he was on a mission. And then Betsy Blair said it looked like he was waiting for somebody, but she wasn't that person. That Richard Allen was waiting for somebody. Do you think Richard Allen knew the girls were going to be there that day?
I don't think the evidence, none of the excuse me, none of the evidence that we have supports that. Um, we do know that we believe that the girls were communicating with somebody else that they thought they may be meeting that day. Um, but we don't have any evidence indicating that Richard Allen was planning on meeting those two girls that day.
So you have indications that the girls perhaps were going to meet somebody else there that day.
We believe that Anthony Schott's account was communicating with Liberty, and some of her friends weeks up to this. So again, it's hard to again, does the evidence indicate that because of Snapchat and Kick and
Yeah.
Musically and all those apps? We know they're communicating, but we don't see the actual text of them, some of them.
Hmm.
So, but we have reasonable suspicion to believe that they may have thought that Anthony Schatz, the that person might be out there.
See, and isn't that that's the thing that always makes people just go, "Wow!" So it's possible had the person associated with Anthony Schatz shown up there, there could have been two nefarious actors there. Or is it possible? I mean, you got to ask if it's possible that some analog way that Richard Allen found out that they were going to be there, and that's connected to maybe the Dropbox or something that Keegan Klein was associated with. But it's just an analog form that you guys can't discover.
Right. Anything's possible, but we don't have any evidence indicating that.
Is there any other unknown person that you saw as a name out there during the investigation, but you were unable to track them after, on social media or anything like that?
No, I don't believe so. If I'm
Yeah, that was
tracking
just
the question correctly.
yeah. There's is there just a name that popped up like a username, but you were never able to find who that person was, but they were communicating with the girls.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Let's see. So, given the fact that Keegan Klein and Richard Allen have both been sentenced, can you say what you guys were searching for in the Wabash River related to Keegan Klein? If you can't, you can't. I mean,
Yeah, probably not yet. We'll
okay.
wait until after all the appeals are
All
squashed.
right.
But yeah, it's a good
All right.
question.
At trial, it sounded like investigators had to go back to the Hoosier Harvest store to get the video after Richard Allen said he drove a black Ford Focus or however that turned out. Why did you have to go back to the Hoosier Harvest store to get the video? Wouldn't you just have the video collected? Maybe you do, and I misheard how somebody
Yeah,
was.
I think that's a misunderstanding. Yeah, we had the video on hard drives. We had it. Yeah,
Okay, that makes
we,
sense.
we went back and reviewed the video that we recovered from the Hoosier Harvest store, but we didn't go back to the store to get it.
Okay, I think that was just misreported then.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, now the next question I had was regarding the headphones being plugged in and then somehow the plug was removed. I mean, it's astounding that people literally think that somebody in the middle of the night, without moving the phone, reached their hand underneath, plugged in the some headphones to see what was on there, and then later pulled it out. What do you think about that whole thing?
I think it's very unrealistic, and I think you described it perfectly. I mean, in order to plug them in, you're going to have to, I think, move the
Right.
phone a little bit. And when you move the phone, the screen light's going to come on. That's going to be reported. Um, and we knew that was one of the. Chris Cecil explained that he knew that was one of the options, but there just wasn't research done to prove that. And then obviously we knew that water and dirt in the port causes false readings, and that's what we believe happened. They went across the creek. They were like, dirty water. So we think it was a false reading.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what this right here. I
Yeah.
was actually looking up. It says yes, the cell phone data can show that it's plugged into a jack due to water damage, even if no physical jack is inserted. And this indication can later disappear as the water dries out, making it appear as if the jack was removed. This is because the phone's internal sensors detect moisture in the charging port. I mean, it's just it's out there, but it's always a huge like conspiracy for people. Like somebody came back in the middle of the night, you know.
Yeah. There's no evidence to indicate that. I think sometimes the truth is too boring for some people, so they want to
Yeah.
exaggerate and make up stories. But realistically, I think water in the ports was the reason why that was reported.
Well, I think it's pretty clear, especially since the jeans that Abby was wearing were wet. Don't. And another thing too, you hear these people that talk about how hard it is for one person to do all this, but doesn't a gun make it really kind of easy to? I mean, not easy, but like you have them undress at gunpoint, etc.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about controlling two teenage girls with a gun. If you're trying to control me and you with a gun, one of us may take off running. But younger kids are, I don't think, would take that chance. And those two were such close friends; they weren't going to leave each other. I think that was obvious. So yeah, I think it's very easy to control two people with a gun.
Yeah, and I guess I wasn't really going to ask about it, but the way that Abby's found was that she's dressed in Libby's clothes. My opinion is that she was allowed to or forced to dress Libby's clothing, then killed. Does that match the evidence at all? Or
That does. I don't know whether she was allowed to or forced to, but we do believe that she was murdered after she put the sweatshirt on. That's what the evidence indicates. How
yeah,
she got it on, we'll never know.
yeah. But it seems like again the way, like in that Frank's memorandum, the 82 bullet point, one single solitary man acting alone had to pull the arm and pull it through. It was most excruciatingly, in my opinion, ludicrous thing. So let me ask you something. What was your reaction when Kathy Shank's information got to you? Like you were probably sitting somewhere and all of a sudden a phone call and
Yeah, I remember exactly what I was doing. I live on a farm. I was on my tractor burning, putting brush on a brush pile and burning it. And my phone vibrated, and it was Tony Liggett. And he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." So I shut the tractor off and started talking to him. And it was in the evening, 6, I don't know, after 5:30 or 6. I can't remember exactly what time. And I said, "Okay, well, send me the information on Mr. Allen, and I'll start doing some intelligence gathering on him and see where he lives, where he'd worked, where he's been." And so we did that, and then we met the next day and uh, did some more follow up investigations on him and found the video. And what kind of, at this point, we already know what kind of car he has and things like that. So we started putting it all together. And at some point, we decided that we needed to go interview him. So, yeah.
It must have been just whoa. I mean, you must have just jumped off your tractor, and I mean, almost felt like doing that anyways. I'm sure you had to finish
Well,
doing what you were doing. But
the thing is, we've had a lot of these where we think it's the guy, and then we investigate it, and um, we don't come up with any probable cause. But this one, uh, we were pretty certain that we were on the right track.
and when you started looking into it, what was the moment that you knew that this is the guy?
I think during the first interview with Steve Mullen and Tony Liggett, when he was describing himself and not giving an alibi to where he was when the girls were killed, and that he was out there, um, I think that made my mind up, and that's not the only reason, because we already knew about all the
Right.
witnesses, and we found his car on the video and things like that. So I think in my mind, that's when I knew he just described himself as bridge guy. This is the guy.
Oh, it's amazing. He's like, well, blue jeans, dark blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hoodie and some sort of head covering. It's like, okay. I actually, every time I'd read what he wrote, I put this picture of him on the screen, bridge guy, and it's exactly the same thing. Do you guys ever figure out exactly? Does he have a skull cap on underneath with a hoodie sort of bunched up behind him? It's kind of strange. I always thought it was a hoodie, but then I don't know if I think that anymore.
Yeah, I think we don't know for sure, but he said he had a head covering on and the sweatshirt. So exactly what kind, skull cap or what, I don't
Hmm.
know if we've ever
Well,
definitely determined
there's a
that.
picture of when he's playing pool, and there's a skull cap that he's wearing that's brown, and it even sticks out slightly. And that one, man, it looks like that could be exactly what
Yeah,
he's
it could
wearing.
be, could be.
What did you make of when he was asked, "Are you bridge guy?" And he said, "No. If the girl took the picture, it's not me." I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he said a lot of things that uh, popped up on our radar that, you know, indicated that that was him.
Right.
So,
It's basically saying, "Well, yeah, it looks just like me, but I can't tell you it's me if the girl took the picture." It's just ridiculous. Oh yeah, remember a long time ago? I remember I asked you one time about a basketball hoop. Like there was some kind of thing that was maybe happened in jail with Richard Allen climbing up on. Was that a real story? Like he climbed up on a basketball hoop and like fell down or tried to jump on it or something. Did that
uh,
actually?
I briefly
Yeah.
I briefly remember hearing something like that, but I don't know for sure where that happened at. And I think it might have been when it was up at DOC, but
Hmm.
I don't recall the exact. Yeah,
Right. And everybody knows you're a tough guy and everything like that. But what's it like over the years, but having so many vicious comments made online? And it's something I'm familiar with myself. It's horrendous. But how have you dealt with that?
right. Well, I'm not really a bully or a tough guy. I'm actually a softy. My wrestlers used to call me Jer Bear when I coached wrestling because
Yeah.
I tried to act mean, but I was
Right.
really nice and would bring them
Yeah.
food and treat them really good. But I know a lot of people accuse me of being mean during the interview to Mr. Allen, but I think I treat him with respect until I needed to be a little more aggressive. Um, we're used to being scrutinized over what we do and what we don't do. I think that the general public believes that we did the right thing and we got the right person, and none of that matters really. What people believe, what I think what really matters is the jury of Mr. Allen's peers believed beyond a reasonable doubt that we got the right guy. So that's the only thing that matters. But I get some indirect hate threat, death threats, and hate email and hate, and people talk bad about me on podcast. And I'll just say, I'm going to try to take the high road. I said what I said and meant what I meant about not agreeing with the defense strategy, and they've said what they've said about me, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to agree to disagree. I think we're just both very passionate about what we do. Um, and I don't mind it. What I don't like is the photos being out there. The family being harassed, our families being harassed. Talk bad about me. I don't care. Um, I can take it. I got broad shoulders and thick skin, but leave the families alone. Leave our families alone. And
Okay. I think that's what I meant by tough, is like you're
yeah,
mentally tough. Um, so regarding that, do you think, see the investigation you did into Mitch Westerman and those guys, can you talk about that at all? Because I do want to ask one question if I could.
yeah. Briefly, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you think that Mitch Westerman was really just the firewall to protect the two attorneys, or do you think it really was that he went in there and took pictures that were on a table? Because it sounds like he already had those images because he had the full um, Frank's memorandum, including the images prior to that. So why would he take pictures of pictures he already had? You know.
um, I can say we did a very thorough investigation, and we did not find any criminal nexus between the defense attorneys and Mr. Westerman. And he got charged for what he did. Um, and then Mr. Baldwin always accuses me of wanting to arrest him, and no, I just wanted the person that got these photos and leaked them out be held accountable. And we did a thorough investigation, and we had no probable cause to believe that Mr. Baldwin did anything to violate any criminal statutes, or we would have pursued that.
Yeah. So I
So
guess if they had a conversation in person saying, "Hey, can you get these images out there?" and those images are put out, I mean, you can't prove it, so then it's like
right, can't
not
prove it.
just
Um,
theoretical.
those are thoughts that we all have, but there's no evidence indicating that.
All right, let's see. When now this is randomly about Keegan Klein again. You remember when you guys were interviewing that huge document that came out that was like 198 pages. It was two investigators. They were interviewing Keegan Klein, and they seemed really interested in that somebody else was using a device. Are you guys still looking into possibility of that? Because remember how the voice was a little different, or the writing style was different, apparently.
Yeah. So no, we're not furthering the investigation on that. We have no evidence to prove that more than one person was acting as Anthony Schatz at that time. It was Keegan Klein, and he's been charged for that. And that's pretty much all I'll say about that.
Why do you think that there were the three? I guess they're investigators, Ferenczi, Click, and Murphy, were out there looking into something on their own on the side without really being in cahoots with other investigators.
Well, I think that's a misconception. We knew. I actually went down to Rushville with Kevin Murphy and interviewed Elvis Fields, so we knew they were keeping. Kevin Murphy was keeping us informed. I think it's a misconception that we did not thoroughly investigate the Odinism and the Rushville connection. We did. They were keeping us informed. We just were never able to establish any probable cause that they were involved. We couldn't even put them in Delphi. So it was a thorough investigation done on that part. And yeah, Kevin Murphy kept me informed daily on what they were doing.
Yeah, and you guys were never able to provide that nexus, nor was the defense, because there was those hearings where they were given the chance, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the Odinist theory in that whole document, the Frank's memorandum, seems to be was the biggest sort of fuel to the fire of this hate against the prosecution. I mean, what do you make of all that? It seemed to work, whatever their attempt was.
Yeah, I really don't know what their intent was, but yeah, it definitely caused a lot of hate and discontent against us unduly. Um, but yeah, I'm guessing their intent, my guess would be just to um, draw attention away from the facts that we had about their client, Mr. Allen.
And I'm sure I mean, I've been watching some of these interviews with the defense team, and they always seem to leave out a couple of the really the big things, like the actual timeline information, the witnesses and so forth. It's just the specific things they bring up. But I guess that's just what defense attorneys do. Have you been watching some of them?
I have not. No offense, but I don't usually watch podcasts or YouTubers. I
Come
didn't
on,
even,
you've watched mine a million times, man.
I didn't even know they existed until this case started. And but no, I do have friends and family members that watch them, and sometimes they'll tell me or ask me things. And yeah, it seems to be a little bit unfair what they talk about,
Yeah.
but again, I'm taking the high road. I wish them all the best luck, and I'm going to move forward and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's weird. I sort of felt like I was on an island when I remember that documentary on the CW network. I mean, I went through that little timeline thing where it's you lock him in, but everybody else is off talking about something else, and I don't know. I don't know. I spent a lot of time trying to put out the facts that are out there, and it seemed to work. A lot of people were like, "Oh my God, I see it now," but then what's more popular are the conspiracy theorists. Like I might have 300 people watching mine and 8,000 watching the conspiracies.
The truth is boring, Gray. That's what I said earlier. If you come down to just the truth and the facts and the evidence, it's kind of just a boring case. I mean, what makes it interesting is all the conspiracy theories, and they're just not true. It's the jury found him guilty, and the facts and the evidence was there, and
Yeah.
nobody likes boring. They want to make it more than it is, and it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I would always say, you guys, I'm 100% certain based on this information that Richard Al, I mean, my own personal opinion, that he is bridge guy and therefore the killer. And then you'd have these people say, Gray, it's innocent till proven guilty. And then now I say, well, he was proven guilty. And now they're going back doing the conspiracy still, it's really frustrating as a quote podcaster or
Right. And then there's always going to be a certain percentage of people that you're just not going to be able to, even though the jury convicted him or found him guilty. And, unfortunately, there's always going to be those people that just can't believe the truth.
All right.
Unfortunately.
All right. Well, I don't know if I have much more to ask here, but I appreciate you coming on, Lieutenant Jerry Holeman. Is there any last thing you want to say, or?
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and good luck.
All right. We'll keep fighting the good fight out there.
Well, thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Right.
See you. All right. Well, thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you could hit that like button, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you thought was the most interesting part of the interview. And I would appreciate reading those and responding. So thank you again for watching. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there. Without further ado, let's get started on that right now. Well, how the hell's it going?
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long, crappy journey, really. I mean, a lot of stuff's been going on over the last 7 years.
Lots.
Yeah. So what I was going to say, it's kind of hard to figure out like where to start talking about something because we've already had conversations over the years. You've been on my show a couple different times. I did a video with you and Mike one time when he was chopping onions, like, I mean, the whole time it was like the craziest thing ever. It was pretty funny though. That one, and then I think you came in one time, I think with a couple different people on a live stream, just one random. I think it was with Beth. Remember her? You know Beth, right?
Oh yeah, I talked to her.
Yeah, so I think there was one time where like you were up there with her, and it was just kind of like you showed up on a live stream or something. years ago. Who knows, though? There's been so many. But so you were at the entire trial, and well, what's it feel like now? Finally, when that that it's like it's over, at least for now, and then there's going to be an appeal, etc. What's it feel like
Um,
now?
it feels like a big weight, just a big weight off of your shoulders, you know. You can breathe, you can it's like you're just not tense all the time. So it's although you feel like, wow, you know, now we're now what, you know? We get to focus on life again.
Yeah,
So
except there's going to be an appeal, right? It sounds like now there's almost less chance because of what that juror was saying. It feels like.
um you know what? I'm just going to have faith that appeal's nothing's going to come of it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not
Mhm.
going to stress over it. I truly believe that nothing's going to come of it.
Yeah. So when you were at trial, were there any time when you were at trial? What was there any time that you were sort of like, ooh, you're getting a little nervous about the direction or anything like that?
No, you know, there's good days and there's bad days. There's some days you think, whoa, we got this. Prosecution's on fire. And then there's other days that you're like, damn, you know, not that I question, but it's like, that could have been better, you know? So I was, I was, I felt good the way the prosecution ran the trial.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but I interviewed Jerry Holeman. It's on my channel. It didn't make somehow it didn't make it out to anybody's notifications, but it was pretty interesting talking to him about it. And he just had. I was actually asking him some stuff about Keegan Kline because I still have a hard time with that whole thing. He even said in that interview, you know what he said? He said, we think that it's possible the girls went to the bridge because of the communication with Anthony Schatz. And it's like, wow, okay. So how do you then not, that he thinks it's possible with that? So how do you not make the correlation at that point? Like this other guy showed up too, or, it's just wild.
That's why it was investigated as much as it was.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, let me ask you something really quick about your the ballpark, though. I mean, this is totally randomly going to something else. How's it doing at this point?
It's doing well. It gets busier and busier all the time. The high school has started using it for ball games. They've held a high school conference there. We actually had the high school ran a cross country tournament there. So besides the people coming down, just the kids to play at the park and the summer concerts, the ball fields, the entire park's just being used more and more.
Well, it's
So
amazing. It's amazing facility there. I went there. I think you met us there when I flew the drone up in the air over the top of the park, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. And all the bricks out there. I think it still needs quite a bit of funding. We're always going to be supporting the ballpark into the future. Just letting you know on this channel. So hopefully,
we appreciate it. It goes to good use, and it actually helps a lot of the community. And it's a labor for us.
Yeah, it's and the brick area is really kind of neat that people can send in some donations, and actually have a brick and it sits there forever. Really, right? Yeah,
It should be there forever.
yeah.
So
So
that helps
go ahead.
that makes this for everybody, you know, not just the girls. It's a memorial park, not just for the girls, but for loved ones, period.
Yeah. And by the way, Becky's kind of tired because she got up at 5 something in the morning to help out Kelsey at their home. So, uh, you know, just in case he doesn't like, yeah, woo, he'll just realize that's what it is. Oh yeah, somebody just typed in. What did you think about? What did it feel like when you were reading your impact statement? We read it on the show here, but what did it feel like to you to actually be able to say your impact statement at the sentencing?
It was a long time coming. You know, I have stewed over some of that stuff for some time, and I had no clue what to put in an impact statement, you know. And so I talked to Nick one day, and Stacy, and said, what do you put in that? And he said, put how you feel. What's been bothering you? So, well, that's what I did.
Yeah. How about Mike's? What was he thinking? Did you help him with his, or you just write his own?
No. We wrote our own. We discussed. We would. I told him what I wanted to do, and he said what he wanted to do. We decided we'd go at it different ways. He just had different things he wanted to say, and I agree with some of the things that he said, because I thought about it later after he read it up there, and I thought, you know, he's right. When our forefathers were writing up the Constitution and all that, I really don't think that they expected our justice system to go the way it has.
Yeah, like who can trick the jury? That you know, so I don't know how to say it, but I think some of I say it all the time, so it's not something I'm just saying now. Is I think the behavior of the defense team isn't what, like, yeah, you have to like really try to help defend your client, but they went to like an extreme length. I mean, I don't really even know how to explain it. I mean, that Frank's memorandum that came out with all that crazy one single solitary man acting alone with dexterity over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was just so childish. But what it did was, look what it created in the community. You guys were already getting a lot of crap over the years because you were like you and Kelsey and everybody and Mike, they could pick as boogeyman the people in the public, right? But then when the Odinist stuff came out, you guys still got your crap, and now there's these other people, the Odinists, and it just created this horrendous atmosphere in terms of everybody supporting the killer in this case.
Yeah. Well, one of the things when Andrew Baldwin was, we were deposed, and when I was in there for my deposition, it was Andrew that was doing it, and he asked me, he asked, I forget what he had asked me, and he said, well, did you even read the Frank's motion? I said, no, I didn't read all. I started and I read things that weren't true in there, and I thought, I'm not wasting my time reading this. I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really taken back that I hadn't read all of it. But when I read in there that supposedly I was the one that told them about Odinism, it wasn't true. It wasn't true. What happened was, I don't know if it was Purdy, or because I think he was the internet officer at that time, was out here, and we were talking, and it was towards the beginning, and I got my information like a lot of people. I did in the beginning. I watched Facebook all the time, thinking maybe he'd be in there, maybe he would say something and slip, maybe I would learn something, you know. So I was in there watching a lot. I had never been on Facebook other than Cafe World and Farmville, and that was all I ever used Facebook for before this. And that's when on Facebook people were talking about Brad Holder and all of this stuff. And I didn't even know Libby or Abby had liked a boy. I had no clue about any of this. I learned about it on Facebook, and he was out here one day, and I said, "Have you heard what the new scuttlebutt is on Facebook? Boy, this is really weird." So that's how I even came into conversation with the officer about it. I wasn't the one that went to them to tell them about it. It was Facebook. So
Yeah.
after I did some of that, and I saw a couple of other things, I thought I'm not even going to go through it.
Yeah. And then I remember like the Flora fire, because you were a what was it? I just want you to be able to say all the different things. Like when you were an appraiser and you appraise, there's not too many appraisers around, probably in a small little communities like that.
There's not a lot in Carroll County, and besides that, appraisals, you're actually a third party, and it goes through an appraisal management company, and you have to be on the approved list. And so it's just random who gets an order. And I had done that in the summer prior. It was months before that fire ever happened. Other than scheduling an appointment, I never talked to the owner. I don't. That's part of it. You have no contact with them. That's the reason. After that crash, we have no contact with the owners a lot of times, unless it's a refi and they have to be there. So I could care. I'm not about to let my license go on the line to do something for somebody. So no, I had done it several months before. Yeah. It was nothing. I was doing my job.
Yeah, you're just appraising a home. What does that have to do with somebody setting a fire to it? Like, what's the point? I don't really even, it's like, it doesn't even make sense.
No.
Especially since it's a homicide. It's not like it was done for a collection of money, or it could be both, really. I mean, who the heck knows? But
I have no clue.
Yeah, it just so happens, you guys, she happened to do an appraisal on that house at some point. Oh, and then don't you remember that crazy time when you slid that book off the bed? that was one of the best ones out there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in James Renner's 360-degree video. You're talking to him, and you're pulling a blanket or something off the bed, and it knocks a book on the ground, and this one YouTuber turned it into this huge thing. You wanted him to see it. But why wouldn't you just hand it to him? Because you knocked it on the ground and then you handed it to him, right? What would be the difference?
I don't even know that I handed it to him. I don't know. I don't even remember. I knocked a book off. But
yeah, it was called Promise Not to Tell. So,
because I had kept everything. And so all this stuff was on her bed. There was just all kinds of stuff on her bed. So.
Yeah, but he made it seem like you intentionally snuck it off so that you could reveal it to him. And it's like, what does that even mean anyways? Like, even if you did do that, that doesn't mean anything. Somebody did ask something up here. It says, was there a moment, detail, or statement, perhaps from one of the younger girls, that stood out or revealed something new to you about the timeline? Now, maybe she's talking about those 3 or 4 girls in their statements. Was there anything new that...
No, I knew most of that. And the reason I knew most of the stuff off of that was because there were people from Facebook that had talked to all of these girls and kept telling me, you need to go talk to them. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to, because we never wanted to be accused of trying to tamper with a witness or something. We knew that they were witnesses. So we steered clear, even though Bree was friends with Kelsey, that was a rule. We didn't talk about stuff when she was here, because never was I going to give any defense, whoever they would be, anything to ever say that we were trying to do anything to any of the witnesses. So we never talked to any of them. But when people would talk to me about it, I learned what they had said. So I kind of knew most of what their testimony was going to be.
Yeah, remember that guy, Doug Rice? He had some pretty good information. he had some crazy thoughts too. He thought the bridge guy video was fake, but he also had the really good information on, I think he even interviewed some of the girls that you're talking about, and they talked about where they passed him. It was kind of right where the woods start after the Freedom Bridge, I think. And what was the other thing? Also, he said that she even described him, what he wrote, that he was like 5'6". I mean, I don't know how that didn't make it out there.
Well,
that would have been an amazing thing.
I'll tell you what surprises me is, if you remember in the beginning, the FBI wanted poster had the description of him as short.
Yeah, they had him like 5'6" to 5'10". So it's kind of like, it is sort of shorter, right?
Yes, 180 to 220 pounds. So they had him. He was the original description of Bridge Guy was short. So
Yeah.
And it wasn't until it was after 2020 before that was taken off of there. And I don't know why they ended up deciding.
You still there?
It was the FBI's decision to take it off.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, no, it's sort of interesting how. And then there's also people that wonder why they didn't try to get somebody to figure out the exact height on the video. And the answer to that question is once you pay an expert, like let's say the state came up with an expert and they said, oh, he's 5'9". Well, you're kind of stuck with that at that point. That's just kind of where you're. And now when you go to trial and they go, well, our guy's 5'6", and then they go, how, so you can't have that because it's hard to be. I did it once early on and I got 5'3". I just did some random stuff. Okay. I had 5'3", and I remember I sent it off to Robert Ives and he goes, well, I don't think that's the greatest way to do it or whatever. So, but I was pretty damn close, really. I mean, that's about as short, really short, but it was kind of a weird way. I just kind of used the height of the side rail and then kind of moved it up, made stacks of it going up, and then went like that. And, that's what I got. But it wasn't too bad. So what are some other things that are out there? I'm hoping the freaks have some questions they want to know, but what are some of the other things out there that have really bothered you in terms of the way you guys have been treated? Because I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And I actually think you guys, I'm just going to say it, like, you guys need to probably do some legal action against some of these people who have made it dangerous for you guys and completely slandered and misrepresented the facts and invented stuff that put you guys in a precarious situation.
I don't know. I don't know if we'll do anything. Like Mike said one time, we know the truth. We know who we are. The people that know us know who we are. And the people out there that don't know us and are saying this stuff, that, we don't care. Who cares? They don't know.
Hey, now that we're, I mean, I my thing is I just feel like these people get away with almost murder on these channels, and it's just, it'd be cool if someday somebody did something to squash it permanently. It's not a good thing. And I think if you start getting lawsuits and people are punished, you'll see a huge shift in that. But the way it is right now, they just keep going. I mean, they don't ever stop their videos.
No, they don't. And unfortunately, some of that stuff comes under freedom of speech. As a matter of fact, at CrimeCon, maybe it was Austin. Might have been in Austin. John Ramsey was there. He was a guest speaker. And I was able to talk to him for a while. And that was one of the questions I asked him. I said, how do you do it? I mean, you've been dealing with this for a long time. And I said, how have you dealt with this all these years? And he said, Faith.
And those guys were accused of the actual murder of their kids from everybody, the media, the news, and everybody. So they had to deal with it even from a worse angle, probably.
Yeah. So when you sit here and think about how we've been talked about, there's always somebody out there that's been talked about worse.
Mm-hmm. Hey, now that the trial's over, can you tell us exactly what was in the 43-second video? That now that you've watched it again, sort of recently, can you just sort of visually explain what we're seeing? Can you do that?
Libby was off of the bridge and just over to the side. She was videoing Abby. You can see her coming. And then you see Libby, she takes her phone and puts it down by her side. It's like she was trying to hide it. And she's standing there, and then Abby, you can see because she's got the phone down, facing down at the gravel. And Abby comes running. You can see her feet, her legs. She runs in front of Libby, and that's when you kind of hear her talk about is that guy still back there, and then Libby's walking around a little bit there, and she's just talking to Abby, saying, this is the end of the trail. There's no place from here. I could tell in her voice that she was nervous. You could tell. And then you can hear him come off the bridge, kind of walk around them. And he said, "Hey, girls." And Libby said, "Hey." And that's when you hear the gun, and he says, "Go down the hill."
Wow. So when was the part where, that was really creepy listening to that. What was the part when Abby says, "Don't leave me up here"? Was that when she's still kind of like 10 or 15 feet onto the bridge, kind of something like that?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that, but it may have been because there was some muffle. Because we did listen to it with headphones on, but that was years ago, and they had told us to focus on one particular area.
You back on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I could tell it was kind of, the connection was going a little down, but I think you were just telling us about, like we were just asking about when did Abby maybe say something like, "Don't leave me up here." She must have still been on the bridge at that point.
Yeah. I think I didn't hear anything when she was on the bridge. So it might have been as she was coming off or something.
So did Libby move back a little bit further away from the end of the bridge and maybe was thinking about going down a hill at that point on her own, and then,
No, because she said it ends here. And she said it ends here. I think they were waiting for him to come off so they could go back across.
Mm-hmm. And then when I was just talking to Holeman, I think the day before yesterday, he said that like most of the time the bridge guy is actually behind Abby, and then there's just a moment where she kind of, probably right when she's getting close to Libby, because I know how that would work, it opened up a little bit of space where you could see the bridge guy just for a couple seconds smoothly, and then that's probably when she starts putting her phone down, right? Because he's only about 55, 60 feet away at that point. So then puts the phone down to her side, right? You can actually see it. Go ahead.
It didn't take him long to get off the bridge because, like I said, Abby ran across, and that's when Libby says, "Hey, the trail ends here." Well, so you're not talking more than 10 seconds, and he's there.
Right. I think that actually fits perfectly with the timing that I've got. Some of these different videos that are out there, people are walking across, and that's about what it would take. So it's like, I think right when Abby runs by, just prior to that, you could see him for 2 seconds. I would imagine, right? So that means after Abby runs by, he's already got a little bit closer, even slightly.
When Abby runs by, she's already got the phone down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. So it's even before that.
Your feet.
Oh, that's interesting. So that means that's even more. It's like 2 or 3 seconds after the image of the bridge guy that we actually saw for 2 seconds. So at that point, he probably only had about 7 seconds more to get off the end of the bridge. Anything else about that? I mean, when you saw the original version, was it just crazy how well they were able to stabilize it on the final version?
I never saw the original. All we ever saw was
the smooth, the stabilized.
Because when they played the original one in there, and when we had break, I said, why didn't you play the whole thing? You didn't play the whole thing. They said, yeah, we did. I said, no, you didn't. That's not what I listened to.
Right. Oh, God. Here we go. Here comes the conspiracies. You started it again, man.
And they said, no, we showed you the stabilized one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's probably the same length of time.
At the trial, they played both.
And then they play the 43 seconds of both. I mean, 43 seconds is a long time, really. You know, that's like, so that's crazy. Jeez. So you got the stabilize. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions about that. We do have some questions up here. I just wanted to say, I think your family is amazing. You even brought treats to the people in line, even the ones that probably didn't, that don't, on the other side. And then also, let's see, somebody said, what was in the extended Down the Hill video? We just did that. Was there anything of note? Yeah. So like when you saw it the first time, what was different about it when you saw it this last time? Oh, and one question I did have was how long after, like the girls were found, did you guys see this video? Was it within the first week or like a couple weeks later?
No, it was months later.
Okay, so it took them a while to do.
Actually, I think it was right before they brought out the sketch.
Right before that. Well, the sketch, wasn't that in the... Oh, yeah, the sketch was with that other Kim Riley. He's the one that brought the sketch.
Was it?
That was like July.
It was when they brought out.
I think I remember the press conference because remember it was like Kim Riley was in that one. He was in a press conference, a little short one where he accidentally said it was a girl or like a woman who put that out there. It seems like that was in like the summertime. Does that make sense?
I think it was summer when we saw it, but Kim Riley's not short.
No, he's a tall guy. He's like 6'4", seems like. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's any quick people. I want the freaks to be able to ask questions themselves. Yeah, people said many things. Yeah, I don't see any questions in there. Hey, freaks, do you guys have any questions? I thought you guys were going to load us up with ones because I have specific ones that I wanted to ask about that. Have you ever been to the crime scene where you go to the bridge and go around that trail off to the left? You ever been there?
I have not gone all the way. I went off that side trail over to the ravines, but it is private property, and I didn't want to trespass, and I don't know that I need to be there.
Yeah. I think when I went there, I made it to that ravine, like you go all the way down and then there's that really steep, and then it's like, then it goes up slightly because that's when the cliff drops dramatically right in that area. And so then I walked another maybe like 75 feet or so. So I think I was getting close, but I didn't know where I was. And Kelsey told me that there was poison ivy and stuff like that there. And I was like, yeah, I've got shorts on. I don't think because you can see these little things on the ground. So I wasn't sure what that was. How about this? Tanya said, when did you realize like the same question I asked Holeman, that this was the right person? Was it all the way to trial, or did you think that there, even before that, just
No. When I heard when I heard the timeline, really the timeline,
yeah,
there, and it's funny because when they had that, somehow I knew when they put it out that they were asking for the driver
of the vehicle that was
vehicle, but they never gave a caller. I knew they were looking. I knew they were looking for a black vehicle. So, but they didn't want to put that out there just in case, So they were looking.
So you knew that they were looking for a black vehicle?
Somehow I knew. Don't ask me how I knew, but I knew.
Uh-oh. How did she know? How did she know before the... No, here we go. Oh, my God.
A lot of it is I just don't remember,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is when you're involved in a case and stuff, you get... People hear things in a huge amount of... a massive 7-year period of time. You might get to hear something from somebody at some point. These other people, they don't get to hear that, so then they're angry when other people get to hear rumors or things that turn out to be true, and then they start accusing, turn it into a conspiracy, So you think you knew that they were looking for a black vehicle. Interestingly, though, they didn't have a clue who the person was. They wanted to. The thing is, they had so many questions. That's what I always tell people is they had, who was the driver of the vehicle that was parked at the abandoned CPS building? Who was the person that Bree and her friends saw? Who was the person that Betsy Blair saw? And who was the person in Libby's video? And then I always ignore the bullet and Sarah Carbaugh, if you can believe that. That's exactly what the jury said. I always left out of my story. You already know it's Bridge Guy by the time he's at the end of the bridge, and therefore he is the killer at that point because he's the guy that took him down the hill.
But even Sarah Carbaugh, even if her story changed, muddy, bloody, whatever, the point is she saw someone.
She did. She says she saw somebody, but it might be the jury decided to remove her.
Right, because that was a very combative
testimony. Yeah.
Yes, that one was pretty wild. Hers and Brad Weber's. It's like, whoa, both of them. Yeah. So,
yeah, the thing is, though,
if you discount most of it, she did see somebody, and that I think, even if you discount everything else about it, she saw somebody. It's still.
Mm-hmm. And she did say that years ago. It wasn't like something that she just said.
Right.
This is stuff they knew the whole time, and then after Kathy Shank finds this piece of information, the name led to the answer to every one of those questions. Isn't that amazing? Like every single one of them. There isn't somebody else that answered any of them. Richard Allen answered every single question that they had. Yep. And so that's it. And he already answered every single question by the end of the bridge, because if you go through the timeline, like I have a million different times, I don't know if you want to, like, we can actually do this thing where I go like this. You've probably seen this one that I made, right? With the 3 girls right there, mm-hmm. Right? They're walking like this from the bridge at 12:43. And by the way, they were over here at the Freedom Bridge at 12:15. So when they walked this direction and made their way to the bridge at 12:43, they already cleared Richard Allen's second story. Because remember, he said he got there at 12 and left at 1:30. When they brought him in, he said he got there at 12 and he left at 1:30, which is a lie. Okay, so these 3 girls, they're right there, and they walk all the way to the bench, right? And that's 1:26. And a minute later, you see the black vehicle of Richard Allen drive by, the black Ford Focus, park at the abandoned CPS building. He gets out. Then he passes the girls right where Doug Rice said, right there. And that's probably about 1:33-ish. Takes 11 minutes to walk to the bridge. And as he's walking there, those three girls go over State Road 25, and then there goes Betsy Blair and drives by the Hoosier Harvest Store, parks her car just as Richard Allen's reaching the bridge. And then she walks like this, and Richard Allen's right there. Betsy Blair turns around and passes Abby and Libby, who just got dropped off. So if I back it up, there's the white vehicle of Libby, or of Kelsey, dropping off Abby and Libby. They get out, and Betsy Blair's in front of them, turns around, and then passes them halfway back. Therefore, Abby and Libby, they have to run into Richard Allen at that point. And then Betsy Blair goes all the way to the Freedom Bridge, comes back, clears the entire trail, doesn't see Richard Allen again. That's because he had taken the girls down the hill right here and across over to the crime scene. See how that there's no escape, but he's already bridge guy right here. Like as soon as Betsy Blair passes and sees Abby and Libby going, he's already bridge guy. And then the clothing on the video that Libby took matches exactly what Richard Allen said he was wearing. And he was standing on platform 1, which is exactly where Betsy Blair saw him standing. So there's no out for it. But I always wish the prosecution had this little video here, because when you see it, it just makes it really clear. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I agree on that, but I'm not the prosecutor.
Well, I told him, hey, if you guys do this again, I hope they don't have to. But I actually asked them.
Do this again.
Yeah.
Hey,
Now, Amber said, I just want to say, oh, yeah, she already said that. Let me see. It was down here. There's somebody asked a question. Do you think by Libby hiding the camera indicated she was alarmed, but still trying to manage the threat at the point to avoid escalating it? Something like that?
I think so. I don't know if something happened. Something gave him the creeps, and when he continued, Mike was right. I think she was going to come home and say, look, this creepy guy, he was following us or something, I really believe that's what she was planning on doing. And, but I think they were just, she hid it. She had taken that. She didn't want him to see that she took it. And they were just waiting for him to get off the bridge so they could go back across. And you could tell in their voice that she was nervous.
Mm-hmm. So she just did she put it in her pocket or just kind of put it next to her side?
Now that I don't know.
It goes dark though, right? At some point.
It stops. I used to wonder if there was more. I used to tell Mike, that stopped awful quick. Or if they didn't show it all to us. So I didn't know for the longest time that we did see the thing.
But now that you watch it again, so he says down the hill, and what's going on the camera at that moment? Is it just like against her side so it's dark, or can you still see the ground? Or
it all happens so quick. Right after, it just stops.
It just stops, huh? Like not too long after down the hill. Just
as soon as down the hill, it stops.
I wonder why I should turn that off right then.
I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. One person said, you're a class act. So much respect for you. That's awesome. And do you think Richard Allen kept track of the case over the years? I would imagine myself that I wouldn't be shocked if he watched some of our shows and,
He lived in Delphi. He would have to, he played pool, he was in the bar. People talk, people around town talked some. So I'm sure he talked about it. I had a couple of people that worked with him and came up to me later and apologized that they didn't put 2 and 2 together because of some of the things that he would say to them once in a while. And they said it just, I thought he was creepy, but I just never put 2 and 2 together. And they apologized that they did not. But
nobody, nobody knows.
None of us did. Although, people say, I probably went into CVS 3 or 4 times a year. because Cat, their prescription is contracted. It's at Walmart. So, you know, we always have to go to Lafayette for our prescriptions and stuff. So unless I needed a birthday card, a wedding card, or a graduation card, I really didn't go in there. So I wasn't in there. So and if I did, I'm usually on the run. So I probably, and who knows if he was even working when I was there, you know?
So he didn't look familiar to you at all.
No.
And it's not even a lot of people in that town, but you know, of course, you're not going to run in. You kind of live far out. You're not in the city. Tara, Tara though kind of remembers, right?
Tara and them, they would, yes, they had seen him because they went to CVS for their meds, and you know they got 4 kids, so you're in there more often. And she said that yeah, she had seen him in there. She said, but I never even thought, you know.
Yeah, I think she said she even developed the funeral photos with him or something, right?
Yeah, he waited on her and developed the photos that we used for her funeral and viewing.
Man, that's just crazy. I mean, think about that. Like he's looking at that. That's insane. Hey, has Dan Doolin ever reached out to you?
He did come up to me after. I don't know if it was after the verdict. Sometime near the end of the trial, he did come up to me and say something. I don't even remember what it was now. There was there was, you know.
I've come to the conclusion that people are a little too hard. I mean, I think he should have said something, like something should have clicked with him later. But if you look at it differently, Kathy Shank knew everything. She had seen every single tip that had come in, knew that these 3 girls had seen a guy. And so when she saw this, she was immediately able to go, whoa, you know, like there's a connection here, and then send it up the chain. When Doolin did it, I don't know if he had the luxury of knowing that there was 3 girls that saw a guy coming into the trails where he could have made the correlation, because he interviewed them, I think just 4 days after the girls were found. So I don't know if that would have been out there yet. What do you think?
No, I don't. Mike and I have had many discussions on that, and kind of mixed, and we're just going to let it.
I'm the same. I am the same. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to find like a little bit of comfort for him, I guess, because I mean, my God, that's like, you know what I would have thought would have been amazing is if you had these crew. The day they put the image out of the bridge guy was the 15th, if you can believe that. Day after they were found, they got into the phone, got the video, got the still, put the still frame out there, and guess what? The very next day, that's when Richard Allen calls the tip line, because that's exactly what it said in those articles. It said, or he didn't call the tip line, he went in, but it said, hey, we'd like to talk to this person. So the next day he goes in, turns himself in, and says, hey, yeah, I was out there. Wouldn't it have been amazing if the command had given each of the people that are asking, you know, answering phone calls or going out to meet these people the next week, the image themselves? So they have the image with them, because this is what would have happened. Let me just tell you this. If Dan Doolin told Richard Allen, hey, yeah, we know you were there, Richard. Here's a picture of you. We got a trail camera. It filmed you. And he'd go, oh, yeah, I was out there. Boom. You just put your hands behind your back. You're arrested. Because you already know that that's the guy that told the girls to go down the hill. But could you imagine if they had just had that? You just show him a picture and go, yeah, Richard, we know you're there. Here's a picture of you. And he would have agreed, because that was him. He knows it was him. That's why he answered that one question. What did you make of that, by the way, when he said, no, that's not me. If the girl took that picture, it's not me. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, kind of told on himself there, didn't it?
Yeah, because what it really means is, yep, that's me, but I can't admit it's me because the girl took that picture. Yeah, that's what he's really saying. Let's see, what do we got here? We got, were you able to see Richard Allen in court? And if so, did you and he look at each other? That's a pretty good question. I hadn't even really thought of that one.
Oh yeah. Oh, we could see him, and he saw us, and he for a while he would just turn around and stare at us, and I mean it was kind of creepy. So I would, if he was looking at me, I didn't look away. But Susan Hendricks was with us one day, and she happened to sit with us, and he was turning around and staring and stuff. And she said, does he, this is creepy. Does he do this? Tara said, oh yeah, he does this all the time.
Oh, wow. So he just.
It so happened that she must have been on a podcast or something, and it must have come to the defense's attention, because the next day when he turned around, Baldwin made him stop.
So like a little kid, almost like a, right? You know, like almost a 4-year-old turning around on a chair or something like that. Is that what he would do?
He would just sometimes, because we were over this so he would just kind of turn around and stare, or if we come walking, if we had a break, he would be standing there. He would be standing there, and we'd have to walk past him to get to our seats. And sometimes he would stare. And
Wow, that's crazy. Jesus. Here's another one. Is it true that Richard Allen processed the? Yeah, we already said that. Did anyone in either families collect photos directly from Richard Allen? If so, what was his demeanor like? And then said, sending love from Australia. Man, you got people in Australia sending you love. So what about? Yeah.
When he developed those pictures for Tara, I mean, she stood there and waited for them, and he gave them to her. And I don't know if it's CBS policy or what, but he told her that there would be no charge for those photos because they were for a funeral. So,
yeah. Jesus, that's man, that is
one of the first when it came out who he was and stuff. And when Tara saw his face, she said, "Oh my God, Mom." She said he developed the pictures for the funeral for me.
And but she didn't have any feeling at the time like he was some weirdo, right? Just
well, my goodness, she was trying to keep herself. Oh shoot, I got a low battery thing here. I'm going to have to plug my phone in. You're going to have to give me a minute.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, there you are.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, so he's the one that actually handed her. You know, she sat there and waited for him to develop. So these are digital images that you just print out, right? On the right. So, man, I can't imagine. That's got to be, if there's ever a made-for-TV movie moment, they're going to have to definitely put that in there. That's ridiculous, almost. You know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Somebody else said, I have followed this since day one. Me too. I'm so sorry, Becky. You're a strong lady. Yeah, so during the trial, I guess, could you tell us more about, like, when the girls there's a footstep. Do you remember the footstep conversation? And did it make sense the way they were explaining it? Like the steps on Libby's phone. I don't know if you were paying like that close, like you're just really trying to digest it all, but it was like Libby's footsteps. And did they show it on a map and like where things would be when they were going over that?
No, what do you mean by footsteps?
Well, I guess it shows the steps, you know, like on an iPhone, it tells you how many steps you're taking. And it said
it does, no, it doesn't map. It's that something health.
Yeah.
Apple Health or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's just like a Fitbit. You know.
Yeah.
Like your
but
Fitbit.
They didn't like try to map it out where it might be and stuff like that? Or it just talks about no.
They did not map it. They did not map it out. I think they were doing more the time frame on it, because it's the time that this started and this happened, and so you could kind of see
like, you know, the height change part. Remember that part is like it changed 2 levels or something. Yeah. Where do they think that was? At the end of the bridge, or?
Yeah, they think that's when they went down the hill.
Okay, so it was down the hill.
It was at the time. It was right at the time when he took them.
Oh, interesting. So it's negative, like 2 stories downward. I guess it doesn't say that, though, does it? It
No,
doesn't say when you're doing it, like it's up or
it
down.
doesn't say up or down. It just says that there's a difference.
Oh, interesting. So do you think Kathy Allen? It sounds like she didn't actually know, but I bet you she had suspicions that her husband was that guy. What do you think?
You know, I don't know. She could be in denial. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know,
When she
when
went to that, when she went into the interrogation,
right.
It sound. I mean, the way when she said, "But you said you weren't on the bridge that day." I mean, and he immediately started, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I don't have to
Mhm.
be. So if she did ever question him, I would say that would probably maybe, but I,
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
know.
that's exactly what I was going to say. That's the moment I was going to say, because it seems like my picturing is that she sees the bridge guy. Everybody's seen the bridge guy in that town and thinks, God, that looks like him.
Yeah.
But he never said he was on the bridge, so she was able to sort of justify it not being him in her mind. And then when they bring her into interrogation and he's actually on the bridge, she was like, "Whoa, you never told me that," because then I might have thought that was you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I
Right.
think that might be um, kind of showing that she was in denial, basically. Was that
I
Mike in
will.
the back? Oh, go ahead.
I will tell you my probably to me the biggest moment, the biggest aha, whoa, my favorite. Actually,
Mhm.
my favorite moment of the trial, the
The Perry Mason moment.
was
The Perry Mason moment. Yeah,
yes,
that's what they say.
was because the defense really thought they had the ace up their sleeve when because one of the things I think in Baldwin's opening statement said, held up a phone and said, the phone's what's going to show you, blah, blah, blah. So the whole thing for them was the phone. And they brought on their expert, and they had run whatever this process is that reads the stuff in the phone. And they got some information that the prosecution hadn't gotten because they had run theirs previously, and this Apple whatever it is, this program that reads deep into your phone. And that was the big thing, was it showed that at like 10 o'clock, Libby's phone was plugged into a phone jack, 5 o'clock or something. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning, it was unplugged. That was their big thing. Somebody physically, supposedly picked up her phone and plugged it in and then unplugged it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
they, wow. So, and I will say, when I was sitting there listening to this, I thought, oh crap,
yeah.
oh, and didn't quite know what to think of that one. And it just so happened that after their witness was off, Judge Gall decided that we would take a 10-minute break. And so we go out for break and we come back in, and Detective Cecil, was the next one that the defense has subpoenaed. And so they pulled him back up there, or Nick called him back up or something. And he said, did you have a chance during break to look this up, what this was? And he said, yes, I did. And he said, it looks like that if it got wet or got dirt in it or something, that it could make it read that. That's what it could read. And Auger said, well, where did you get that information? He said, I Googled it. I,
They could have too, though, but you know.
but I mean, it was it was like you had all this technical stuff going on, and then it was I Googled it. It was on Apple Care, and it's like
they were waiting for that to be their. Yeah, well, check this out. Check it out.
And I did listen to the defense attorneys. I did listen to theirs, and that was one of the things OJ said, that it was. She said when she finished her questioning, that she went back and sat down. She said my knee was just a shaken because I knew we had it. I knew we had it, and she said he purposely subpoenaed him to be next so that they wouldn't have a chance to look anything up. She says, but you can't control trial. And lo and behold, we had a break. And he went out and he told it, but that's what you or I would do if we had a problem. And you would Google,
Well, look at this. I did that the other day. It actually brought this up with Holeman. Watch this. Yes, a cell phone data can show that it is plugged into a jack due to water damage, even if no physical jack is inserted. And this indication can later disappear as the water dries out, making it appear as if the jack was removed. This is because the phone's internal sensors detect moisture in the charging port, interpreting it as a connection, which can then be registered as unplugged once the moisture evaporates. Isn't that amazing? It's like, there it is, it's right in their face.
But it was just one of those moments that it was such a simple answer to all this technical stuff that it was like,
Yeah, no, yeah, and it probably just made you just go. It wasn't really a Perry Mason moment. It was a, phew, we survived. They thought they had something, right? Yeah. Well, look at this one. Remember the Snapchat, how the Abby's image isn't on the phone?
Yes.
Right. It isn't in the cache. Listen to this. Watch this. This is crazy. A Snapchat image might not appear in the cache because it was never saved there in the first place. That's the first one. Either due to image being deleted before it could be cached, the user having a setting to limit caching, or because the image was originally viewed as a live snap that is designed to disappear immediately after being viewed, meaning it doesn't get stored in cache at all. There's literally 4 answers as to why it's not in cache. So, that's where the prosecution probably could have looked that up too, because remember when they were asked that, he goes, I don't know. He goes, I don't know.
They didn't have an answer for that. It does show up on our phone, though, that there was an event. Something happened at 2:07. And I don't know if it said Snapchat. I don't remember. I didn't take notes because...
Oh, that's right. I remember that. What was it? Turned off or something? Like it sleep mode or something, right? Wasn't it something like that? Like
it did show that there was an event, that something happened then. So the 2:07 shows it happened. They just can't figure out why it didn't save it or whatever. But it does show that something happened.
Yeah, no, I can actually remember that something was going on at 2:07. It was something like the phone, the screen saver, something like that, right? Wasn't it like it was locked? The screen was locked at 2:07, something like that. So
I didn't, like I said, I didn't take notes because if I'm taking notes, I'm not listening. I can't do both at once. So I decided, unless there was something that was really that I wanted to ask a question to Nick or suggest something or something, and then I would hit Mike because he usually he was over there.
Yeah, I think I just now remembered it was the thumb. It was something to do with the thumb identification on the phone. Something like it was trying to be swiped to be unlocked in the pocket or something like that. So something was going on. That could have been like right after she took the picture, then put it in her, I don't know if she put it in her pocket to keep walking, who knows what was happening. But I think that's what was happening at 2:07. Did Kathy ever stare at you or interact? There you go. That was one of the questions.
Not that I'm aware of. It was a little awkward sometimes because we all had to share the same bathrooms, so we would be standing in line next to each other, to go to the bathroom, but she wasn't the one on trial.
Well, at least you guys got to go to the bathroom and have a seat when you came back. I thought it was crazy how they treated everybody else, man. You go out for a second, oh, got to get back in line,
Yeah, we did. We've, and I want to say this before I forget. I want to thank everybody that has supported us, that that kept this story out there and did so much for our case. And you, Gray. I just want to thank all of you guys, because you helped. I do not believe the police would have ever put it on the back burner. They were very invested in it themselves, but it doesn't hurt, to keep the pressure on them a little bit. And with everybody keeping it out there, it did just that.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously there were times, where there's just nothing. We still do shows every once in a while just to, keep it going. But sometimes there was nothing. It was like 2019 was pretty big. And then it was the Anthony shots. That was huge. That was a big time in the case. I'm still holding out hope that there's somehow there's a connection there. Yeah, that's bizarre. But yeah, I mean, I think I actually really like you, and I like your whole everybody, Kelsey, Mike, every single person. I think you guys are awesome people. I've met you guys a couple times, like at CrimeCon, and and I went out there for the documentary, and you guys are just great people. So it really offends me the way when you're treated poorly out there. I really don't hold back. I just say whatever the hell I want back to those people. I know you've talked to me over the years about Gray. Well,
we've had those conversations, haven't we?
Yeah. She goes, Gray, you just need to, be a little bit more. You guys say the same damn thing, all right? But I just, it's too hard.
Bedside manner.
Yeah. I'm not sure I would have been the greatest doctor in the world. I don't know. There's just certain things that piss me off. Once somebody said, acknowledging the grace the family had throughout the entire trial process, small spaces had to pass by people who treated them poorly for years. Yep. And then let's see. After that, there was your poise and grace inspire me, Becky. Look at that. How cool is that, huh? And then God bless you, Becky, and all the family members. Gray, thank you for being a voice of reason. Well, that's one thing I can say I've been doing over these years is trying to keep the factual elements. And by the way, people make these stories up that you and I sort of secretly developed a timeline to fit a narrative that you guys wanted out there, and it's just totally bogus. Are you still there? Looks like you froze up. Oh yeah, I just remember communicating with you early on and trying to get the information so that I could accurately put together a timeline. And we worked on that together. There's some stuff was off, obviously, because looks like your camera froze a little bit, but because remember early on it was like the girls were dropped off at 1:37, but it was actually 1:49. That was based on the phone information, but it's like it's just the way it is. Sometimes pieces of information change.
And it does. And we remember things later. Just like, there people really come down because I'm the one that gave the description of Libby that day. And when she was sitting in my office, she had on sweats, I know what she had on then. And when she ran in the house, when she left and said goodbye, I turned around and talked to her, but she was standing and there's a desk between us. I didn't see that she had changed into jeans.
Yeah.
So when I gave her description that day, I said sweats. Now I will say, when I was doing laundry, when I was up finally picking up some stuff in her room and doing laundry, I came across a pair of gray sweats, and I thought she was, because I didn't know any different at that time. I well, she must have 2 pairs of these. It didn't even hit me yet that she had changed. I'm, you know, so.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, here's what sucks is, why do you even have to explain what you're explaining? Like, you thought that she was wearing sweatpants, but they were jeans. Who cares? It's like, that's what.
It did change the outcome.
No.
And nobody ever saw her to call the police and say we saw somebody wearing that. So did I make it, did it make a difference? No. Did I mess up? Well, I guess I did. I didn't find out until the police ended up telling me. Just like I didn't know she had a sweatshirt for a long time. I didn't realize that she had taken one from Kelsey's car. And then there's people saying, look, she had that sweatshirt on before. Libby or Kelsey said it was a new sweatshirt. It was a new sweatshirt. Do you know how many swim sweatshirts we have? Every year they got a new one. I've got pairs of sweatpants that says swimming on them in my closet right now. They got one every year. So
yeah, and then also Abby's shirt was also one of Kelsey's too, right? That little sweatshirt that she had on, the gray or whatever color. Right. And so that explains the hair, but it doesn't matter to people out there. They think because there was a bulb, the root on the hair, then somehow there was this big battle, and Kelsey dropped them off, but then turned around and sprinted back somehow undetected by anybody and made her way to the crime scene. It's just these people. I don't know. There needs to be like an IQ test for true crime just to have more logical people covering it, maybe, that use common sense. You don't have to agree to that at all, because I'm doing exactly that same thing again. Yeah, you guys should see, like, Gray. Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, I think it was like, I remember like 5 years ago, just talking to you one time, and you were just, Gray, you gotta, how it's just say that. You were like the true crime mom or somebody telling me how to be nicer. But there are times where I'm a little nicer, but I gotta admit, I haven't quite made it all the way to that place yet. Let's see, what else, you guys? Anything? Tara German, I've been silent. Kelsey kept my private. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So is there anything else at the, just like the trial was the big thing. You wait all those years to get there. What are the things in the trial that you were just like, whoa, that's some new information that you hadn't known? I mean, a lot of it was stuff you didn't know, but the bigger thing that you would just kind of go, wow, that was crazy.
Well, we all knew that there were confessions. So getting to hear them was interesting.
Yeah. When you heard some of them, did it sound like he was just totally normal? Because I've heard that people say that, yeah, he sounded like he was just, I did this,
There was one of the last ones they showed us, or we listened to. He was talking to his mom, and he was carrying on a conversation, asking how so-and-so was and different things, I mean, it was just a normal conversation. And then in the middle of the conversation was when he said, but mom, I did it, And she kept saying, no, you didn't. They're messing with your mind and stuff. And he said, Mom, why would I say I did it if I didn't? So he carried on an absolute conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was, I would not have at that point in time thought, anyway, was he psychotic? But
I think he was trying to get what he really wanted. I think he wanted to confess. He became religious. He wanted to confess. He wanted to unburden himself. And he wanted to know that they would still love him, even if they knew that he did it. But his wife never would give him that answer. She would always say, I love you, but you didn't do this. And he go, I did. And then she go, oh, you didn't do it. You didn't do it. And it was finally like the mother at one point said, would you still love me even if you knew that I did this? And the mother said, I would still love you. Okay, so that's what he wanted to hear, but it still didn't end up being where it ended everything and he confessed the correct way. I mean, I don't even know how come it didn't turn out where he writes a confession, he confessed 60 times. Why wasn't the case over a long time ago? You know, I just, it's bizarre to me. His attorneys, maybe, or
I don't know.
you think his attorneys just wanted to do the trial so it convinced him? I mean, could you imagine somebody that confessed that many times and you're just going to go, forget it, Richard. We think we can get you off here. Let's go. And
you know what? Let me tell you. I've been doing a lot of thinking on this, and I've come to this conclusion, and I know defense attorneys have a job to do, right? I always thought it was to get the best deal they could for their clients, but I have decided they don't care if they're guilty or innocent. It's almost like a chess game to them. They just want to win. They don't care. They don't care.
I totally agree. 100%.
So they just want to, just like the defense are saying, well, the prosecution did this wrong. They did this wrong. They're just looking for a technicality.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying. They're looking for this little minute thing to get a killer free.
So I don't think that they care whether he's guilty or not. And and when I sit here, and I'm not talking about just us, this is the way I think it is in the world. And the ones that pay are the victims. They're over here. They're forgotten about because now it's all about the perpetrator's rights. It's all his rights, all his, nobody's worrying about the rights that the victim had when whoever took it away from them, So, yeah, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with that. I guess I always thought that if a person was guilty and the lawyer knew it, let's just get the best deal we can, right?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I totally agree. I think that's exactly what they do, because whenever you listen to them talk, even on these shows, they never address the huge elements of the case, the ones that literally show that Richard Allen is bridge guy. They go over to these little side things and go, hey, this guy did this tape's missing, this guy said this. They're still talking about the Odinist stuff and everything like that. And the thing is they think that they have the ability to free Richard Allen, so they're not going to give up until they free him. But I guarantee you, they have to know that he's the killer because of all the confessions. Every element of it shows that it's him. He came forward. He was there. He described himself being there exactly when he was there. He described his clothing exactly what the bridge guy is. He admitted being there with information that only the killer would know. And they're still trying for these little side technicalities, just like you said.
Yes. And so I guess I lost a little bit of faith in not our justice system, but just maybe kind of how it works when I realized that this is really what happens.
Yeah.
It's not about truth. It's not about the truth coming out. It's about winning the case.
Yeah. And, sadly, there's been times where prosecutors have done the same thing. That's why innocent people have been released. But I think in general, the defense teams are the ones that usually are trying to find this little sort of niche to get their client off. You would hope that in general, prosecutors, like way more than not, are being, just using the facts, going straight at it, etc. But those few cases that are out there kind of make people sort of almost look for the other side sometimes, like the defense team. I don't know how anybody's defending Richard Allen at this point, but you see it's way bigger, a community of people. I mean, are you seeing that online? It's amazing. It's huge.
Yeah. I think it's. I'm not even going to go there right now. You know, we have waited almost 8 years for justice for Abby and Libby. And, some of these same people used to badmouth law enforcement because they didn't have the killer. They hadn't arrested anybody. They finally get somebody, and now they want to free him. And it's like it's a no-win situation. It doesn't matter what law enforcement does. It's not right, you know. So no, I feel that our justice system worked. He was tried. He was convicted by a jury of his peers. And I did listen to that juror, and I feel that they did very good deliberation. And even some of the things that the defense wanted kicked out, they themselves discredited and still convicted him. Even without the ballistics and Sarah Carball, they still convicted him.
Yeah.
So tells me, and to me, it's a no-brainer if you just use your common sense on what happened on the trails.
That's exactly right. Common sense tells you that Richard Allen is the person. And the thing is the probable cause document for me it already locked him in. That's why I would always tell people, you guys, if this all is true, and it actually got worse for him at trial, but if all of this is true, then Richard Allen is the bridge guy. There is no doubt about it. And then people would go, Gray, it's innocent until proven guilty, and they get really angry. And I'd say, well, yeah, you probably thought the same thing in the OJ case, right? But then now he was proven guilty, and 12 jurors voted guilty. And now they're all saying he was screwed, he was robbed, and all this stuff.
Well, one of the things the defense is saying, not a one of those witnesses sat up there and pointed at Richard Allen and said, he's the guy that we saw. Well, that's not what the prosecution was trying to prove.
No.
Instead, in the beginning, I am going to prove that Richard Allen is bridge guy.
Oh, that's it.
And with the bridge guy had to be the killer. So Richard Allen has to be the killer. He never once said that he was going to put a witness up there and say that Richard Allen was the person they saw. He already told him that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he proved. He proved that Richard Allen was bridge guy. And that's why, again, Sarah Carball doesn't even really matter that much. The bullet doesn't matter that much because he is Richard Allen. Richard Allen is bridge guy at the point of Libby's video. Right at that point, he's been locked in. He has no out, and it is him. And so, it's funny because I made a video about a year and a half, right when the probable cause came out, about a month later. You know what the video title was? Richard Allen is bridge guy. That's what the name of the video was, right? And it went right through the timeline, and boom, boom, boom. It's him. Didn't even talk about the bullet. Didn't talk about Sarah Carball. Didn't bring up any of that. And there he is. And guess what? That's exactly how the jury even looked at it. Just like that.
That is how they did it. So.
Yeah, there was another, somebody said, did you think that there was two. Were you surprised by the arrest of Richard Allen, number one? And did you think Anthony Schott's account and Keegan Kline were likely involved at, probably at that time? What did you think?
I think we all did at the time. I mean,
yeah.
I knew that the police were heavily investigating them. But, I didn't hold my breath because they investigated others, but they did put a lot of time into them. When nothing came about, and asked for Richard Allen. Yeah, we were
surprised. I remember
totally taken off. That came out of left field. That came out of nowhere. We had gone
totally. We're still searching the Wabash River. Remember, they were looking at the Wabash River for just before that, and then
Yeah.
I guess the tip came in a week before the end of searching the Wabash River. But then on the, I think it was the 13th of October, they said, no, it wasn't even then. It was the 26th where they arrested him, right? Something like that.
Something like that. I know that we had gone on fall break and we came home. We got home on Saturday, and I think they called us maybe Monday and then asked us to come in. They wanted to talk to us like on Wednesday, and then they were going to officially do his hearing or something like on Friday. They wouldn't tell us who it was or anything. They just said, we have somebody in custody and we're going to blah, 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 you know. So.
What did you think of at trial when they said, when Richard Allen's confession to Dr. Walla involved him going to his mother's house in Peru? I mean, and then and then Keegan Kline lives there, right? So, man, it just makes you there's so many things that make you think that somehow Richard Allen knew that the girls were going to be there that day because of the Anthony Schatz account, but how he found out might be why law enforcement has never been able to prove that they knew, that he knew,
and that could be that could, we may never know,
we might not. But here's the thing, I guess after the appeals are finished with Richard Allen, I think that's where, if there is somebody else involved, where he could negotiate some better prison situation, something like that. Because right now he has no leverage whatsoever. Even before trial, he had no leverage because, even if he is just the guy that took the girls down the hill and brought them to the crime scene, it's still felony murder. He get the same exact charge. And by the way, but also if there was somebody else that did the killing, wouldn't he? I guess he could have said, "Hey, I wasn't the one," and maybe cut a deal where he got a lesser sentence. So I guess that's sort of, but that would admit that. So they wanted to go for a not guilty verdict. You know what I mean? That's what they were going for because, what does he have to lose? He's still going to get like life in prison, even if he's just the kidnapper who brought him to these other Odinists that were over at the scene, right?
Mike made a good point the other day. We were talking, and of course the defense is saying, Richard Allen is a small guy. There's no way he could drag Libby around or something, And Mike said he was military. He was in National Guard. They train you.
Oh yeah, geez, I hadn't even really thought about that.
Yes, he would have been trained to do something like that.
And guess what? See, that's another thing I was talking to Holeman about. See, that's why that document was so ludicrous about one single solitary man acting alone with dexterity. I don't know if you ever saw my video that I made with Mr. Rogers. I used Mr. Rogers putting a sweater on and using the same verbiage they were using, and how difficult it was for Mr. Rogers to put a sweater on and so forth. But here's the thing, when you have a gun, you can get people to do things, right? Like you can get people to undress with the gun. You can get people to dress with a gun. The only physical exertion he would have had to use would be moving Libby's body, 20 feet, 30 feet, something like that. That's it.
Well, and the blood guy, was that Cicero?
That's a tree, yeah.
The blood spatter guy said that Abby was killed where she was, and the way the blood was in the sweatshirt, she had it on when she was killed.
So there you go. Yeah.
Dressed. Somebody did not dress her.
Right, exactly. And that's what I've been telling people forever. I believe basically, I came up with, remember when the crime scene photo was released, right? I saw it, okay? The thing is the way Abby's hands were kind of tucked up like this. I don't know if you can see me right now, but they were kind of like this. It shows that she was alive, and she kind of curled up the end of the sweatshirt in her hands. So she must have been alive when she was killed. And that's what it turns out. And even Holeman said, yes, that's how it was. So that means at gunpoint, he could have just had her dress or allowed her to dress and say, go ahead and get dressed. And maybe he changed his mind. Maybe he was going to let her live or something, but changed his mind. But, either way, having the gun made it sort of easy, the whole thing, right?
Yeah, those girls were scared to death.
Yeah. And they would just do anything he was saying because he had a gun and they're going to do it. And I don't know, how it went, where was Abby when, something happened to Libby. It's just the whole thing is disturbing as hell, but they make it sound like it was so difficult. How could one guy do this? And like you said, he was in the military. They have to know how to do that stuff. And also he is, he had a gun. So there you go. It's really kind of easy.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. There was, there was a lot. One person could do it.
Yeah. And there's other cases too, where one person does something just as much easily. That's not even, I don't know. It's one of those things that they try to make a big deal about, but there was nothing to make a big deal about. It's not crazy that one person could do that. And, let's see what else. I know you've been on here a long time already.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
Yeah, and your camera's kind of offset, but I wanted to say I really appreciate you coming on. Maybe we can do it again someday after everything, after all the appeals and everything. We can just go, okay, let's all, celebrate one last time, something like that. But I want to thank you for your, just being like a friend over the years and communicating and just, I try to keep the case alive for you guys. We try to gave my channel and all the freaks that we've given a ton of money to the ballpark, and we'll just keep doing that over the years. So what do you think of that?
We appreciate you. We really do. We appreciate all of you guys and what everybody has done. Yeah,
like Frank Meister was in the chat and Fig Sauls was in there. So I'm sure you're talking to them too. So very cool.
Well, Frank is my savior. He sends me all the documents. I have no idea how to get those things. And every time something comes out, he sends it to me. I don't know.
He sends it to me now too.
To what?
No, he sends them to me now too, because you told me that he has them. So now he sends them to me.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah. Y'all like Frank Meister. All right. Well, thanks, Becky, very much for coming on. And I guess we'll talk to you soon, probably one of these days coming up. Maybe not tomorrow, but, coming up.
You bet.
Okay. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you later. Bye. All right. Well, I hope you guys liked the interview there with Lieutenant Jerry Holeman and also with Becky Patty. Okay. So if you could hit that like button, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what portions you were interested in and, what you were thinking about what they were saying. I would appreciate it. All right. So thanks again. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.